to get into the hips, and we're going to use some props uniquely. So look around your space at the moment and see if you have a place like a little bit of wall space or some space to put a block against at some point. So I think, we're all getting creative in our homes of how to do yoga. So just make sure you have a little tiny wall space cleared, or even a piece of furniture that you can put, a block up against. That's what we'll need in our practice today. Okay, so let's sit up straight and tall and take a moment to notice, how are you sitting right now? How are you placed your hips? Are you sitting in Virasana or cross-legged? Are you standing? Are you sitting in a chair? Are you most comfortable in your pelvis and your hip joints? And then notice, is this always how you sit? So in a moment, if you're sitting cross-legged, we're gonna change the cross of your legs. But for now, just notice your pattern, your habit, what feels comfortable, hopefully comfortable in your body. And take a moment to close your eyes and settle into the pelvis, this deep grounded place in our body that's so supportive and communicating right now with the earth below you. And see what it feels like through the layers of blankets or pillows or whatever you're sitting on, to feel that deep grounding connection and yielding with the earth. And from there, feel the spine lighten like feathers coming upward. So you have a sense of lightness to your spine where gravity is not just plugging us downward. So have the rebound upward. Feel a sense of openness across your chest, collarbones. Take a moment to just enjoy a good, healthy posture in the body. How's your low back? Is it curved just right? Do you need more or less? How's your chest feeling? Is it hard to keep it open? Do you have pain to keep your chest open? Is your back hurting you anywhere? What can you do to melt something? Start to pay attention to your breathing. Notice the inhale, the pause, the exhale, the pause. Can you put a little tracker on a little molecule of breath and trace it down your trachea, into your bronchi, into your bronchioles, into your alveoli? Back out again. All right. Take a moment to place your hands at your heart and bow in. What are you grateful for? Is there something that you do not feel that is canceled? What out of that list kind of resonated that you still have? Can we have deep gratitude for what we have in our lives? All right, relax the hands down. And now I want you to change the cross of your legs. So flip to the other crisscross. And if you're crisscrossed, if you're in Virasana, just stay put for a moment. And just notice, how does this impact your posture? How does it impact your mindfulness, your sense of comfort or ease in the body, familiarity in the body? And then we're going to start to move with some seated cat-cow. So round the spine, tuck the chin toward the chest, and then arch the spine and lift the chest off. I'll scoot back a little further so you can see me. Okay. All right, so finding that sense of rounding the spine and opening the spine. Feel the shoulder blades move. Feel the back puff. Feel the chest puff. Find the breath. Let the pelvis roll around. So feel the pelvis roll forward. Feel the pelvis roll back. And notice what your femur bones are doing in the hip joints when you move your pelvis. Can you feel the pelvis kind of sliding over the femur bones? Or are the femur bones going with the pelvis? There's no rights or wrongs. Just notice. All right, and now we're going to just circle a little bit. So kind of finding a little bit of a circle through the spine. And if this is not comfortable for you, then you can already start moving on to your back, because we're going to go there in just a moment. Circle the other way 2 or 3 times, just feeling your sit bones, the weight shifting in the pelvis. And then go ahead and relax that and come off of your seat and come onto your back. Okay. So lie down, feel a sense of extension, feel your arms reach up overhead, stretch your right, stretch your left, and just feel that sense of opening up the rims of the body, a little bit of a back bend that lives in your spine. Take a deep breath. Maybe you want to squeeze or hold your breath for a moment. And then bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit. Sway side to side. And then circle your knees one direction. And then circle your knees another direction. All right, and then right knee into the chest, left leg long on the floor, wiggle some toes around, feel your feet open, enjoy the feeling in your ankles, your calves, your shins, your feet. Feel a deep squeeze in the hip joint. Give a good compression, just let that in. And then change sides, left knee into the chest, right leg long on the floor, feel a sense of compression, so press your knee toward your chest, give it a good squeeze in the knee joint as well as good squeeze in the hip joint. And then relax, bring both knees into the chest and open both legs out to the side and then back in toward the center. So just feeling the range of motion that your hips are capable at the moment. And as you open up the hips, notice the sacroiliac joints. Just try to pay attention to how everything works together. And then we're going to come into happy baby pose. This is a big pose for the beginning of class, so feel free to be a little more gentle than you might normally be, and feel free to rock a little bit left and right. Breathing deeply, extending the spine, compress again. So feel the compression in your hip joints. Reach your feet up into your hands, and then relax that, and spread your arms and legs wide on the floor. Starfish open, exhale, knees into your chest, chin up. Let's find it again. Open your body. Exhale, snuggle it on up. One more time. Spread open your limbs. Exhale, draw the knees into the chest. Place your feet down onto the ground, arms opening out to the side. Feet are as wide as the mat or at least as wide as the hips. And let's go ahead and windshield wiper your knees left and right. And just start to notice, feeling the stretch across the top of the hip bone, maybe into the side waist a little bit. Just checking in with your spine, seeing how it feels as you move from side to side. Let's enjoy. Now grab a block because you might need it, you might not. Drop your knees over to the right. Let's pick up your right foot and put it to the outside of your left knee and stick a block underneath either your right or left knee if you need some support, if it's uncomfortable to come all the way to the floor. Feel the stretch right around the inner rim of your pelvis. See what it feels like to breathe into that space. And then lift back up, knees into the chest for a moment, feet flat on the ground, feet wide on the mat. Drop your knees over left. Have a block handy. Lift your left foot and put it to the outside of the right knee or shin or thigh. Support underneath your left or right knee, whichever feels best, or nothing. Maybe go comfortably to the floor. Feel free to move your body, your arms, your head to accentuate the stretch. Open things up. What do you feel here? Where do you feel some space coming? And then let's go ahead and come back. Put your feet flat on the ground. And we're just going to do some pelvic tilts here before we get off of the floor. So rounding the spine, lift the tailbone up off the floor, and then drop the tailbone and lift the top of the sacrum up off the floor. So a little nutation and counter nutation of the sacrum, just simply rocking like a seesaw. The top of the sacrum lifts away, the top of the sacrum drops down. It's just going back and forth. All right, and then let's go ahead and roll over onto our side and come up onto our hands and our knees. Okay, so already your spine had a little bit of warming, but let's do more. So maybe some faux cat-cows, maybe you want to do some different movement patterns in the spine. So just see what feels good. Open yourself up. All right, and then feet hip width, our knees hip width apart, hands shoulder width apart. And let's do some circles with the pelvis. So tailbone is like a paintbrush, and paint a circle on the wall behind you. Just loosen up a lot of the ligaments that connect your spine, your vertebrae, to your pelvis, as well as loosening up your hips a little bit. So go the other direction 2 or 3 times. And just enjoy the way this is loosening your back, hopefully. And then stretch back towards child's pose. Feel the deep compression in your hips. Find your breath here. You're going to do this 2 different ways. So inhale, come forward onto all fours. Stick your sit bones up in the air and come back with some deep hip compression. A little anterior tilt of the pelvis. Feel how soft the low back is. Come back up onto child's pose, tuck the tailbone, and drop back and feel the openness in the lumbar spine. Maybe not so much softness, but maybe less compression in the hips. One more time, each way. Anterior tilt the pelvis, sit bones high and wide, stretch back to child's pose. Are you breathing? Come back up, round the spine, tuck your tail a bit, and reach back towards child's pose. And then come back up onto all fours. Inhale, lift the right arm up in the air and slide that shoulder down. Feel a sense of openness across the back body. Relax the head. How's your breath? All right, and then inhale and reach that arm back up in the air. Place the hand down onto the ground and change sides. Left arm up. Slide that arm through. Breathing deeply. And then inhale and reach that arm all the way back up. Place the hand down onto the ground and find dog pose. So stretch out through your hands, curl the toes under, and lengthen up through your spine. So let's take advantage of a big open space here. So start pedaling your feet, maybe dropping one heel down and then the other. Breathe fully, breathe deeply. Finding the breath. Extending through the spine. And let's walk forward and come into Uttanasana. Fold a little bit in half. Feel the sacrum lift up and spill the pelvis forward like tipping a bowl of water. Inhale for a halfway lift and then melts back down again. How's your breath? Connect in, rise up, find this lift of your arms to the sky. Open yourself up. And big circles. Couple more. Just find some big shoulder openings. And then interlace your hands behind your back. Open your chest, bend your knees, and come forward. Feel your arms leave your spine. Relax your head. And then release your arms down at the ground. Take your halfway lift. Lift and widen the sit bones. Exhale and melt back down. Come to a squat, so take your feet wide on the mat, maybe even off the mat if it feels good to do so, and go ahead and squat down. So you can put your elbows on top of your knees, you can put your elbows inside your knees. If your knees don't like squatting, then try putting your butt against a wall to squat so that there's a little less pressure on your knees. So find what's working for you. Breathing deeply, extend the spine no matter where you're doing. Feel what it feels like to root into your left foot, to root into your right foot. Back and forth a little bit and then root both. Spread the bones of your feet, lift the arches. Feel your breath. All right, and then come on up. Standing starfish, open your body. And then exhale and heel toe your feet in. Let's go ahead and come to a lunge. Take your right foot forward, your left foot coming back. Finding your breath. Extending through the spine. Open the hip flexors of that back leg. Feel your lunge. Be light on the blocks. Open the chest. Let's go ahead and put our knee down and open up some more. Just feel the difference between knee up and knee down to open the hip flexors. And then let's start to move with breath. Straighten both your legs. Knee comes off the floor. Bend your front knee. Your back knee can always come back down onto the ground. There's lots of ways to modify this pose, but just go back and forth, feeling some sense of slide and glide in the hamstrings. It's easy to forget that we need to really move sometimes to open up our muscles instead of a static stretch. All right, walk your back foot forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Stick a block between your thighs. Come into chair pose. Hug in toward the thighs. Find the work of your outer hips too. So as you're hugging the block, put your hands on the outside of your knees and push your knees into your hands at the same time as maintaining a little pressure on your block. Find your breath. And then rise up, reaching the arms to the sky. Take a breath. Exhale, keep the block, fold forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. I promise I won't forget about the other lunge on the other side. Exhale and release. Step and hop and walk your feet back. Just waddle your way back to a plank. Hold steady here. Feel the integration. Your core extends to your inner thighs. Find your breath. You can always have your knees down onto the ground if you need to. Okay, let's go ahead and take that block out of there. Put it off to the side and lower yourself down to the ground. Gentle cobra pose. Shoulders back, engage through your lower body. Exhale and melt back down. One more time. Finding the breath. Exhaling, releasing to the floor. Back up. Onto all fours, have a moment of moving your spine around. Grab your blocks. Again, let's bring our left foot forward. Come into a lunge. Extend that back leg, reach your heart forward, finding your breath. Over and over, just keep melting into your practice. Relax what you can, soften your face. Keep the breath steady and stable. Long exhales. Let's put our knee down onto the ground and rise up a little bit more. And you decide whether you want to have your hands on blocks or somewhere else. Opening up the breath. Feeling your hips open. Curl the toe back under, lift the kneecap. Let's start bending and straightening the front knee. Chin tucks toward the chest. As you straighten your leg, knee bends as you open the chest forward. So back and forth a few times, keeping the hips square, finding the breath. All right. Let's go ahead and walk your back foot forward one more time. Fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and release. This time, no block. Feet are hip width apart. Hands on the outer knees. So we're in a low chair pose. Hug your hands against the outer knees or the thighs and push. So little isometrics. Push your hands and knees into each other. Extend through the spine. And then rise all the way up. Find your breath. And then fold forward. Put your hands on your blocks. Halfway left, so the sit bones lift high, an inner spiral of the thighs. Root the feet. Press into the big toes, the inner heels. Spread open the other toes. And then while you're here, isometrically drag your feet apart in Uttanasana as well. See what it feels like to try to tear a little tear in the center of the mat, waking up those outer hip muscles. And then exhale and release. Fold. All right, so let's step our left foot back, come into a lunge, and rise up to a crescent. So as you guys know, I've been nursing a little bit of a shoulder thing, so don't mind me if I leave a shoulder down. You can do whatever you want with your arms. You can have two arms up, you can have one arm up, you can have two arms anywhere you want them to be. Okay, so find the best place for your body. Open your breath. Relax the shoulders. Feel the traps surrender to the pose instead of inviting them for tension. So it's so easy, especially when our arms are overhead, to just creep the tension there. Drop the shoulders. And then exhale, twist to the side. Arms can come out or wherever they want to be. Use your exhales, engage your core on the twisting. And then come back, up you go. Place the hands down onto the ground, walk your back foot forward. Fold in half again, bend your knees, and then halfway lift. Open up the heart, stretch your spine, and your legs are straight. Lift and widen your sit bones. See if you can let the pubic bone pass through the inner thighs. The sit bones lift and widen. The front of your pelvis is tipping down. Spread open the bones of your feet. Lift the arches. Isometrically drag your feet apart from each other. And just notice the difference. What turns on? What light bulbs light up? And then relax and melt. Step your other foot back. Left foot is forward. Finding a lunge on this side. Rise up. Put your arms where you want them to be. Deep full inhales. Deep exhales. So no matter where you end up with your arms, stay in the groundedness of your legs. Your back knee can bend a little bit if you feel like you're tweaking your knee at all. You can always put your knee on the floor. Feel your front heel root into the earth to engage your glutes a little bit more. And then when you're ready, let's twist open. Arms go where you want. Shoulders are down. Use the obliques to do the movement. Use the breath, the exhales to do the movement of twisting. And then inhale and lift back up. Straighten your body out. Exhale, hands down onto the ground. Step back to a plank. Hold steady here. Find your breath in, find your breath out. Let's put our knees onto the floor. Come down. Take your legs wide on the mat. So a little extra work for the outer hips, the glutes, gluteus medius. So our toes are going to curl under for a moment. Lift your kneecaps up. Have your thighs straight down toward the floor. And then when you're ready, lift just your legs. You can put your head in your hands. Notice if you have strength more on one side than the other. Finding the breath. And then exhale and relax. Bring your knees a little closer. And swish your feet left and right. Just let your back loosen. Finding the breath here. All right, let's go ahead and climb up. Come up to stand. Okay, so you can get up there however you want to get there. And grab your block. We're going to find a little bit different way of doing, I think all of you have done this with me before, but just in case, we're going to use a block for our standing poses. So I don't know if you can see me, but I have a block against the leg of my couch, but you can do this with a block against a wall. You can do this with a block against a piece of furniture. Okay, so wherever you're going to go, let's start with your right leg. Okay, so find that sense. And now my feet are not super long, so I can get away with having the block this way. But if you have really long feet, put the block this way so you have room for your feet. Okay, so find your breath. So whatever you're doing, we're coming into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2, with your body supported by the block. So because we're close to the wall, if you're near a wall, you might be against furniture and this doesn't matter. You can bring your hand up or you can put your hand on your hip if there's no room to bring it out to the side. Other arm can stretch out. Feel that your knee has a little support here, which is great for vulnerable knees, but there's so much work happening in your hips. So stay rooted. See if you can keep that line of the front heel, the kneecap, and the sit bone in that front leg all lined up. Finding the breath, stay rooted in your back leg. Feel free to turn the pelvis a little bit if you need to for support. Anything you want with your arms, slide the shoulders down. Feel where your breath is coming from. Notice the difference when you're taking a little bit of the weight bearing out of your knee joint. Where can you bring the focus to instead? And then come on up. And we're just gonna do some flip-flops from one side to the other. So you can turn around or find a different spot, whatever, I don't know, what your house is looking like. So just find something to put your block against. So remember your stance can be short so that you have, not much depth in your knee. You can have a lot deeper. So just discover what's right for you. You want the front heel and the knee and the sit bone to all line up on one line. The back hip can turn or open depending on what your body is needing today. Be mindful to not overstress your SI joints. So a lot of work in the hips. Press your feet, lift your arches. Feel that external rotation. Find your breath. Soften the shoulders down. Relax something in your upper body. Feel the roots of your feet. I'm sliding because I'm not on a mat. But just see what feels good. All right, let's go ahead and find our way out of this side and turn your feet straight for a moment. Come down to rest in Padrita. Just relax down. You can have a block underneath you. You can have your hands on the floor, however you want to be. And then come on up, and we're going to come back to the first side for Parsvakonasana. So decide where you want your block to be, what angle you want your block to be at, whether below your knee or right at your knee. Find the place that's comfortable so there's enough room for your foot. Feel where your pelvis needs to be before you bend your elbow down. So do you have to turn your hip a little bit to have some ease across the pelvis? So try not to be like a wishbone on a chicken, that you're pulling apart to make a wish on. Don't let your pelvis feel like that. Feel integration instead of pulling apart. So internally rotate the back thigh, take the femur bone back, and turn the pelvis as much as you need to get that feeling of pulling yourself apart away. Once you have your stability, place your elbow on your knee, and your arm can come up, your fingers can touch the wall, or your hand can be anywhere you want. Notice if you tend to push the pelvis forward on that back hip, take the thigh bone back, internally rotate. Feel the pelvis turn to the front leg as much as you need to allow for some ease across your pelvis. Feel the work of the outer hips. As you allow the knee or the shin to compress into that block, where is the work transferring to? Can you feel it in the hip? Root your feet, open the chest, finding the breath. Shoulders are moving away from the ears. Okay. And then go ahead and come on up. Second side. So we're doing the same thing. We want to have that capacity to line up the front heel, the knee, and the hip, the sit bone, so that you're all lined up and have good stability in the front leg. Then allow the pelvis to do what it wants to do. If you're real open, you can open the pelvis this way. If you're not as open, turn the pelvis toward the front knee. So find what's comfortable for your hip joints that you're not feeling like you're overdoing. Okay, so we don't want the ligaments to overstretch in our sacrum or our hips. Find your stable place, and then when you're ready, elbow comes down onto your knee, shoulders away from the ears, and extend and lengthen through the arm in the air. Because your knee is supported, take comfort in that, release into that. Feel the grounding, allow yourself to go a little deeper perhaps because the knee is supported, and then put the work into the hips. Externally rotate that front leg, so you might try that jar spin with the foot. So with the left foot, turn toes left, heel right. Nothing's moving, it's just isometrics. Let that be a light bulb for those deep rotating muscles underneath your glutes. Shoulders are away from the ears. You have even weight in both your feet. All right, go ahead and come on up and out of the pose. Turn your feet straight again. Bring your hands to rest on the floor or the block. Relax your spine down. Full breaths in and away. Come back to the front of your mat for dog pose. Okay, so extend through your spine. Walk the feet back. Feel the sit bones lift up. Feel the extension through your spine. Feel where you touch the earth and root in.
Inner spiral the thighs. And everybody take your feet to the edges of your mat. Turn your toes in. Inner spiral the thighs. Feel the internal rotation, the wide, high sit bones. Spread out the bones of your feet. All right, and then walk your feet back in. Come forward into a plank. Find your breath here. And then let's go ahead and release our knees down to the floor and come to lie down on your belly. But any kind of back bend you want, everything can come up. Locust pose, Superman pose, Cobra pose, Sphinx pose, up dog. And then exhale and melt. Let's take our right knee high up toward our chest. Feel some Sphinx in your arms. So forearms are touching the floor. Drop your hip into the earth. Feel the extension through the back leg. Open your heart. And then release that. And let's move to the second side. Bring your knee high up toward your armpit. Extend through your heart. Don't worry if you can't go very high. Just go where your body says it's okay. Feel the drop of that hip. Sink into that hip as best as you can. And then relax that hip back. Come back up onto all fours. Find a moment to release the spine. Feel free to do some circles with the pelvis again, like we did in the beginning. Finding the breath. All right, so sink back towards child's pose. Do the anterior tilt of the pelvis. So lift your sit bones and take your hips back toward your heels. Let the compression be bilateral. See if you can find symmetry in the hip joints. Open your breath. All right, and then come up back to dog pose or just come to stand. However you like to get there, we're all going to end up standing up. Finding the breath and release your arms down. So notice if your hips are a little achy from the poses we've done so far. That's kind of good if you feel like you're working some of those deeper muscles. We're going to stand on our right foot and bring our left foot to cross over like a figure four. And you can hold on to something with your hand. You can, especially if you need support for your knees, you can stick your butt against a piece of furniture or a wall to do this so that we're coming into the pose however is safe for you. So you're standing on your right foot, your left foot is over, crossed to the top. Feel the anterior tilt of the pelvis. The sit bones lift and widen, pass the pubic bone through the thighs, extend the arms if you want to, or you can bring them out or wherever they're comfortable. Find the breath. Come into your squat. Imagine that hand on the outer knee. So feel that you're still engaging those outer hip muscles to stabilize you in one leg stand. All right, and then come on up. Reach the arms to the sky. Open up your breath and release your arms down. Root into your left foot. Find the roots. Sink them down. Support yourself with props, a chair nearby, anything that you need to make yourself feel comfortable. Cross the foot over. Whoa, if this pose is hard on your knee, you can do eagle legs too. You can just cross one thigh over the other thigh. Okay, so come down. Try not to stick your hip out or twist. See if you can keep your pelvis pointing straight. Root your foot into the floor. Feel the sit bones move back and wide. A nice neutral curve in the lumbar spine. Bring your arms where you want them to be. Discover your breath. Go as deep as you want, both in the bend of the knee, as well as the leaning forward with your chest. Everything offers different sensations in the body, so find what's working. And then unwind and reach two arms to the sky. Take a deep breath in and relax into Tadasana for a moment. Just stand here, feel the roots of your feet, lift up through your arches, the softness in your knees. Let the breath travel low in the body. All right, inhale, lift your arms, take a deep breath in and fold in half. Halfway lift comes long, exhale and melt back down. Step your left foot back, your right foot is forward, come into a runner's lunge. You can put your knee down or you can keep your knee up. And just find, once again, that deep work in the hips, opening things up. And then let the knee release down. We're going to heel toe your foot all the way over to come into pigeon pose. So allow, you might need support. So for me, everybody's got differences from left and right side. One side might feel a little bit looser and more capable than the other. So just find what's working for your body as you come into pigeon pose. Hopefully everything we've done so far has given you a lot of warming for the hips. Okay. Find your breath. With the back leg, curl the toes under, lift the kneecap up and turn it so it's facing down on the floor straight instead of externally rotated. And of course, if pigeon pose is not available to you, you get to do reverse pigeon pose or any other pose that you want to do. Find support if you can as you come to be more restful in the pose. The toes can curl under or lay flat once you have your legs straight. Deep breaths here, melt someplace in your body that's holding tension. Focus on your exhales. All right, let's go ahead and find your way back up. Swing that leg around. Sit cross-legged for just a breath, and then let's find the other side. So let's start, we're gonna start in pigeon, and then we're gonna end up in the runner's lunge. So we're gonna go backwards through it. So start out in pigeon pose on this side. Support underneath your sit bone if you need it. Finding the breath. Extending through the spine. Melting your way. Make sure your kneecap is facing the floor. Make sure your leg is in direct line with your hip instead of out to the side. Your back leg I'm talking about. And then once you're settled, rest your head. If you have a block to put your head on, that's great. If you're in reverse pigeon pose, rest your head, let it drop back into the earth. What's here for you? Are you resisting? Are you letting go? How is this side compared to your other side? Do you notice that you have a lot of differences between your two hips? All right, let's go ahead and swing out of there however you want to. And we're going to come back to our lunge. Take your left foot forward, your right foot back, hand on the inside edge of your foot. Your back knee can rest on the floor, or you can have your back knee up. So feel the deep compression in your hip joint and the extension in the back leg. And then come back onto all fours. Have a moment of swishing the spine around, moving some things, deepening your breath. Pick up your feet and go left and right. So we're lifting, I'll show you from the side, we're lifting our feet up off the floor and just swing your feet to the left and to the right, feeling the work through the deep low back muscles, the side bodies, just let things loosen. All right, and then relax and come back to a seat. So just like we began, we're going to come, make sure you're on whatever kind of props you need to be comfortable. Okay. And we're going to come into fire log, Agni Stambhasana. So let's take our left leg on top first, our right leg below. There's so many ways to modify this. So if you try this and you're like this, where you can't really, you're rounded in your back and your legs are sticking up high, there's lots of different ways to support yourself. The first know of whether you can get here or not. And if not, bring your hands behind you, undo your left foot and put it on the floor. So, your right foot and put it on the floor so your left
knee can just be up in the air with your foot resting on the knee. If you can go a little deeper, stack your shins and then feel free to put blocks under there anywhere you need them to be to support your knees. Okay, so there's lots of ways that this pose can be supported. Have enough support underneath your pelvis, so sit up on whatever you need and find your way into the pose. Now, if your foot gets real wrinkly in your inner ankles, pick up your foot and stretch it out. So you want to stretch through the big toe and the inner heel of that left foot on your right knee. Lift the spine and just discover what's here. So maybe this is your absolute limit. Maybe you can go forward a little bit. If you want, if you're very flexible and you can go deeper than that, bring yourself onto your hands, lift your sit bones up and take your femur bones back, your sit bones back, place yourself back down onto the ground so you're in a little more anterior tilt of the pelvis, and then place your hands in your feet, touch your feet with your hands and press. Another isometric, press your hands and feet into each other and then release. And then maybe do it again. And then release. And just see where your body is able to go. Rotation is difficult. Let's go ahead and come on out of there. You know, there has to be a lot of agreeability with your ankles, your knees, and your hips to be able to do this, not to mention the muscles that need to be open in order for you to be able to have this deep of a pose. So don't fret if your body can't do this. This is pretty unusual for a body to be able to rotate so easily. You know, it takes a long time to get to this level of flexibility. So hands can be behind your back, foot can be on the floor, kind of like a modified reverse pigeon pose. If you are in this variation, the further you walk your foot away from you, the less intense the stretch. The further you bring your foot toward you, the more intense. And then have the same movement of anterior tilting the pelvis, widening the sit bones. Okay. And if you're in Agni Stambhasana, do you need props? Do you need blocks underneath knees? What do you need? And if you're deep and you feel comfortable and the ankle wrinkles are gone and you're able to stretch through the big toe and inner heel, put your weight into your hands, lift your hips up and stick your sit bones back. Then press your hands into your feet, lift your spine, lift your heart, have a little press feet and hands into each other, and then release that and stretch forward. Be really mindful to keep a slight anterior tilt of the pelvis, some length in the spine, so we're not just rolling back and rounding to try to find depth. What's melting? What's able to relax? And then come on out of there. Stretch 2 legs straight and just shake out your knees a little bit. A little walk, walk, walk. Okay. Find your breath. And then take your feet hip width apart. You can lean back and just rotate your femur bones. Okay, so of course your feet are moving, but let this happen all the way from the femur bones. Have some ease in your hip joints. All right, so come off of your blanket. Let's come back one more time into dog pose. Have your feet wide on the mat. Extend the spine, maybe a little inner spiral of the thighs. Breathing well. All right, and then come down onto your knees. Grab your 2 blocks, have them close by, come up onto your shins, take your right foot forward. So you can stack 1 block onto the other. I like to hold on with 2 sides when I do this, but if you want to be in space, that's fine too. So half Hanumasana, draw the hip back, right hip moves back, stretch through the right big toe, the inner heel. And then if you want to add a little twist in there, you can either have your hand in the air, your hand on the hip, or your hand on a piece of furniture. Drop the hip, try not to hike the hip out and up, drop it down and in, and stretch your IT band. All right, and then come back to center, switch sides. Stretch your heel, extend the spine. You know, if you get caught up with your hamstrings blocking you from going anywhere in this pose, bend your knee a little bit. It's okay to have this knee in the air bent, so that your hip can drop down and you can find that twist. So, don't let your leg go as straight as it can go. But if you get blocked by your hamstrings, just won't let you go anywhere. Try bending your knee a little bit. Extend upward through the spine, find the twist. The hand can be on blocks. You can take any adjustment that feels good. Stretch through the IT band, drop the left hip down and in. All right, and then come back to center. Anterior tilt the pelvis and relax into child's pose. All right. So everybody's a little different in how they like to restore from deep hip work. So I'm going to give you two choices: either leg up the wall pose or Supta Baddha Konasana. So you decide whether you want to be very supported. So Supta Baddha Konasana is the pose where you take the soles of the feet together. And if you're going to do this, I want you to support your hips a whole lot, like more than you usually do. You can even have the box on a higher height like this, so that you're just really soft in the pose. I would recommend leg up the wall pose. That's what my body feels like it would want, but that's just me. You could be very different from me. So if you're going to do leg up the wall pose, then, and of course, if leg up the wall pose is contraindicated, if you have uncontrolled high blood pressure or glaucoma, anything that prevents you from wanting to go upside down and put pressure on your skull, then you can do Supta Baddha Konasana instead. But if you want, you can take a blanket or nothing underneath you and just slide against the wall and bring your legs up the wall. Okay. This is a great pose after doing hip work, I think, because it lets the femur bones just soften into the hip joints and lets everything relax a little bit. So if there's not any rotation, there's not anything super deep going on, it's just letting gravity kind of settle the hips. So I would recommend this over Supta Baddha Konasana, but you do you. What's feeling good for your body? Now, you can have as much stacked underneath your pelvis as you want. You can have nothing or more. So whichever pose you're choosing, this is your opportunity to let go, to melt, to let go. Stay present with your breath. Melt your hips, let them soften and relax. As you are ready, you can choose to stay if you're super duper comfortable. And you can also choose to transition to Shavasana at any time. Savasana is such a beautiful pose of rest as well. So, whatever it is that your body needs, choose if you are going onto your back, perhaps supporting underneath your knees with a blanket or a bolster. And just see what kind of softness you can give to your hips. As you feel your body melting into the earth, take care to notice the way your face feels. Can you rest your skull, all the bones in your head, the muscles in your head? Can you relax around your eyes and soften in your jaw? So let's slowly begin to deepen our breathing. Deep inhale. Long, relaxed exhale. Feel your weight on the floor. Feel the softness in your hip joints. Melt your limbs. And then let's start to move a little bit more. So feel free to turn your head from side to side or move your hands, your wrists, your fingers, maybe your toes, your ankles. And take a big full body stretch perhaps. You can ignore me and just do what you want, but maybe a big arms overhead stretch. And then knees into your chest. Go ahead and roll over onto your side. And bring yourself upright as you're ready. Place your palms at your heart. Just take a moment to enjoy being in a seated posture. Open your heart. Let's send forth our energy outward to someone we know who is alone, who needs our love, our support. Just open your heart. Send it forth. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.